Hello, this is National Chess Master Rats at chess.com, continuing my coverage of the team match between my video lessons group and CARPE DIEM. And this particular game was played on board 126. We held a rating point advantage. Here the final rating 1731 to 1582. Our guy is black, El Zoido 238. Uh, Again, these early results, the match is just 6 days old now, are coming because one or both players are moving too quick. And I'm doing my best to educate you folks to slow down, take your time, analyze, and let's see what the result of quick play does here. Okay, we have a Benko Gambit. These are always fun. Black gets adequate play for the pawn sacrificed, and I'm not going to go into the myriad of variations in this. I can recommend one book if you can still find it in print. It's the original book written by Pal Benko about the Benko Gambit, published circa 1975. It's an English descriptive notation. That's D4 is pawn to queen 4, knight to king bishop 3, pawn to queen bishop 4, pawn to bishop 4, pawn to queen 5, pawn to queen knight 4. That's the Benko Gambit opening, okay, in English descriptive. But Benko wrote it, and it's got all of his ideas behind the Gambit written, and he explains them all. If you can find it, it's a great book to have. Okay. Uh, so there's a lot of methods for handling the Gambit. We'll get to the basics of it in just a moment. Usually the knight doesn't go right to b6. Usually black castles first, and as Benko explains in his book, at some point black has three places to put his queen: c7, b6, and a5. Each one has a positive and a negative, and Benko does his best to explain it. These knights can do all kinds of fun maneuvering. I often, if I play it, I like to sometimes get the pawn to c4 and bring the knight into c5. And if this white pawn on e4 has moved, we have a wonderful square to plunk that knight on d3. So there's all kinds of ways to play this, but in effect, for the pawn sacrifice, black is going to have tremendous and lasting pressure along these two files. And if both these pawns fall, black is left with a strategically winning ending. Okay. So knight b6 isn't normal, but at least in my mind, but it's definitely a line. Now here, black is playing to activate his pieces over towards the queen side because, well, that's what black wants to do. But he has blocked his own queen in, but it really shouldn't matter here. But white commits a serious error here in a moment. We'll see it. Okay, now he's decided to occupy c4 with the knight. Now the one thing is that knight's not threatening anything, okay? There might be some variations later where it can threaten a knight takes b2, undermining the defense of c3, but white needs another attacker in there to do it, okay? So what would be good for white here? Well, one thing to try might be to bring a knight to d2, okay? That reinforce threaten to take that knight and get it out of there. Black may reinforce with knight b6, but let's see what black does, or white does. White starts committing serious errors here. This opens up this diagonal. It also relinquishes protection of this knight on c3. See, every time you move a pawn, you weaken a square or two squares. When white plays e4 on the first move, he's weakening f3, f4, d3, and d4. That doesn't mean that e4 is a bad move. You're going to have to weaken some of your pawns or squares when you move pawns, but the squares that white just weakened may become a factor later if he creates another weakness, but they certainly shouldn't matter here. So here you have a serious weakness, and now there's an immediate threat to win a piece. And I don't think white has a resource here. He's just in trouble. So, whoops, let's bring this back. The knight to d2. Let's look at that. Okay. If black takes, Then he's just moved this knight about what, four times? One, two, three, four times to take a knight that moved twice. That doesn't seem to make sense. I was saying he can reinforce his knight, but then once again he's clogged up things on the for getting this queen into play. Let's see, he could maybe develop this bishop. Okay, that's a possibility. Again, you got to watch for tricks, for some tricks down here on c3. You know, black is threatening to rip this pawn off, removing the defender. Okay, but I think white should probably be okay with rook c1. And you know, unless I'm missing a tactic, you know, black has his typical Benko pressure coming up, and then and only then, you know, get b3 in and you know, but then it weakens a3. This knight's coming into play. You know, black's going to have an initiative. There's really nothing white can do about it when you allow a Benko gambit. Okay, it's going to happen. You're going to have weak squares on the queen side, and so forth. Let's go forward. Okay, so bishop f4 was a possibility, but b3 just didn't cut it, and now material is going to fall, and boom, there goes the pawn. Now black has regained his gambit pawn. Wait, what's that pawn doing on? No, the pawn was on b3. That's right. Okay. See, the queen a5 move threatens to take on c3, forking a couple of rooks. Let's see. Can he take it? Now this. Let's see. Looks like black can get his pawn back. Okay. Take. C4 has problems now. Let's see. Knight b6. Piling up on this pawn. What am I missing? Let's see. Well, at any rate, black is the aggressor here. You know, queen can come into e3 or a3 rather. If queen b3, let's see. I don't know. I'm just trying to construct a defense, and when you get a position, you know, ideally you spend a lot of time and analyze this out. See, b3 is what he played, queen a5, and I was looking at taking, go ahead and taking the knight. Now let's see. We can also take with the queen. We don't have to take with the bishop. That'll probably do it. Because if queen takes to c3, the bishop takes, and you've got a fork, and bishop d2 is nullified. So that defense didn't quite work. So, you know, like I say, white's in trouble here. So, whoops, he picks e5, and black grabs the pawn, and now he gets his rook off that diagonal. But you know, it's a problem. C3 is not protected, so white just picks up material, tempos the rook, and white has lost a rook right now. He's going to get some of it back. You'll see he has a little combination here. He goes and attacks a rook, and threatens, you know, trying to get some kind of counterplay over here on the against the enemy king. But black is prepared, and now he starts getting the bishop back into play. Now there's a threat of queen takes e7. Black covers that, but you know, white's valiantly playing on down a rook here, and black just has compensation, plenty of positional compensation. And here, white sacrifices another exchange for some pressure. He's threatening a mate in one, but unfortunately, attrition will just do poor white in here, because now black will liquidate into a winning position. Let's see if the king, well, what white does is white just goes into a lost ending. What else can white try here? The only other legal move is king h3, and I think this is going to be curtains here very quickly. Let's see. We have a check on f1. That looks pretty deadly. And this comes out, and there's a check on c8. Wow, this is turning gruesome in a hurry. If the king comes this way, this falls with check. You know, black's got too many defenders, so black just trades white down, and whoops, it doesn't go there. He plays queen takes, but black has 5 pawns, white has 5. Black's up the exchange, and it's black's turn, and he's picking up a pawn, and a2 is going to get taken with check, and black's up the exchange in 2 pawns, and he stays the exchange up in 2 pawns, and there you have it. And he tries a little bit more, but clearly the game is lost, and here's where it ended. Okay, so what went wrong? Well played by black. What went wrong for white was he just didn't analyze the position at the critical moment and dropped material. It tells you made a mistake. The mistake is that you didn't analyze when it was when the position was still defendable, and it goes back to this position here with knight c4. White should have an adequate defense, but he didn't take his time to find it because he didn't anticipate what black might do, and b3 created so many weaknesses. It looks like a natural move to evict the knight, but it weakened c3. It weakened this diagonal. It just did too many wrong things. Okay, let's look at the other game and see how that turned out. And this one's pretty interesting too. Let me take it back to the beginning, flip the board. Okay. Here we have the Evans Gambit. One of those things that was analyzed probably back in the days of the Civil War, okay? A long time ago. White scored many a nice win with this opening. But one drawback with it is it's been pretty much analyzed out. I think Kasparov revived it a while back, but there's been remedies to what he's shown. But anyway, there's a lot of ways to play this, and that's beyond the scope of what I can do in this video. I did look and see they did play book for a while, but black didn't really pick lines that were the most common ones, and he tended to pick ones that white scored well with. So I think white handled his game very nicely here, and if you're gonna, I think knight g e7 is the safer move and more common. This stops castling, and now e5, and now castling is stopped again. White's down some material, but white's got a lot of development. The black king is caught in the center, and again, I think this is all still in theory, and I believe at some point white missed a really strong move here. I think the strong move was knight g5 right now. Just seemed to wreak havoc on the black position. So you can't play rook f8 to batten down the hatches here on f7 because the bishop will take it. And let's see, so knight g5, knight d8. This is just starting to get uncomfortable for black. Lines are opening up. Pawn takes. This is just looks to be tremendous for white. Black can't afford to take because there's going to be, well, not quite yet, but this king is caught in the center. That's the main thing, and further analysis would show how strong white's attack was. So to some degree, maybe white didn't analyze this deeply enough, but his move was certainly fine. Rook e1. Now I don't remember exactly where it left theory, but now here e4 guess what? This is not attacking this knight because it's a pinned pawn. It's not attacking this at all. So now white finds knight g5. Now he gets the knight into e5 as opposed to d8. But we'll see what good that does him. Knight takes e4. And suddenly black looks at this game and he can't play knight takes c4 because of knight takes f6 double check, winning the queen. So black is trying to hang on the best he can. And here white definitely played a little too quickly here. Black can actually sack a piece and get some positional compensation here. I'll come back and show that in a moment. Black captures this pawn, and that develops a knight. We've talked about this in my videos. Don't make exchanges that develop your opponent's pieces. Okay, let him make exchanges that develop yours. Okay, so here comes a check, and I'm going to come back and show how black could have maybe defended this game. Now this falls with check. Now the king is definitely caught in the center, and there's a pin that black needs to get rid of, and he finds a way. He puts the knight into d3, but too little too late. Here comes a very fatal check, and now we have checkmate, game over. So what black could have done, and I'll show you here, is develop pieces. Okay, just give this thing up. Okay, bishop here, pawn takes. Okay, now get castled. Now white's up a pawn. Up a piece, but black is fully mobilized. There is an open file here, and white has to step kind of carefully here. This game could turn on him in a hurry. Like for instance, if bishop goes and grabs this pawn, okay, that's got a nice threat. Suddenly, black's got counterplay here. There's a mate threat that you have to deal with, and how are you going to do that? Rook e2. Okay, well, let's shove this pawn. Let's see what happens here. If you're not careful, that pawn's going to turn into a queen. If you play rook d2, you're shutting your own knight in. Okay, see, now this is out of play, and now I don't know what's going to happen next, but at least black's got his king to safety. He's not going to get checkmated like he did, and if white doesn't grab that pawn on f7, black's going to be using that g file. Just something further. Let's see. Suppose white gets cute and tries this move. Okay. Well, it's still going to go here and threaten mate. Okay. You need to guard that mate. You want to undevelop a piece? Well, that's fine. I'm happy with that. I'll go threaten a rook takes check, and suddenly black's definitely got some play here. Rook e2. Now you shut your own bishop in. Here comes d3 again. You're gonna try this. Maybe you can get d2. Maybe not. Maybe knight can just safely take it. But black's probably going to lose this. But make white work for his point. Okay. You're going to lose the way you went. Take your time and try to find something that'll work. Okay. So anyway, what else could white have done rather than f4? I think white did have a good continuation here. Let's see. Knight takes is fine, but instead of f4, let's see. Let's come up and bother that pawn. Break the pin. Okay. Now we're threatening rook takes. And I don't think you have time to play c5 because of this move. Okay? So I'm just saying, just by analysis, did you consider this move, white? I think it's pretty strong. You're threatening to take a pawn, and then your next step is to get this knight into play so that you can get this rook into play. And I think black's in some trouble here. Let's try similar to the game, or similar to what I was saying. Let's get on this diagonal. But I think now white has a remedy. Bishop d5, and black's going to lose material, right? You can't protect the bishop. So knight can't go to f6. It's pinned. Black can't castle. I think black's in a lot of trouble. d3. Well, that's okay. Just play knight d2. Now the knight's in play, and maybe pretty soon you'll be able to get away with f4 in a more favorable situation where black doesn't generate any counterplay. Okay, thanks all for looking. I'll be back soon with another video. We just got to get some more results. Take care.